From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Welcome to the March 29th edition of Carolina Week. I'm Jacqueline McClary.
And I'm Fred Shropshire. Thank you for joining us once again for a look at Carolina news and events. A renewed sense of Carolina pride in the men's basketball team, along with crowds spilling out of bars and restaurants, is pouring big bucks into Franklin Street businesses. Local merchants are reaping the benefits as diehard Tar Heel fans celebrate Carolina's bid to the Final Four.
When the teams are up, the people are up and they're out and about in town and we're busier.
At BW3, short for Buffalo Wild Wings and WEC, business is booming. The bar on Franklin Street has increased its sales by an estimated 20% during March Madness. The wealth is also trickling down to local sports vendors. Customers are coming from all sorts of places to buy merchandise.
Since they made the Final Four, I decided to go ahead and come in and buy something.
Chapel Hill Sportswear was the first store in the country to sell the official NCAA South Regional Championship T-shirt. It's a bragging right manager Holly Toms wants to keep.
If we win Monday night, we will have T-shirts the second the clock strikes 0. We'll be open all night till shirts run out and through the next morning.
In the meantime, Tar Heel fans will be watching Carolina battle Florida Saturday night. As for loyal BW3 customers wanting to see that game,
Get here at least 2 to 3 hours before the game, even earlier if you want to have a seat.
For Chapel Hill entrepreneurs, it's anything but business as usual. They're all delighted that the team's success is helping their bottom lines. You can tune in to watch the Tar Heels take on the Florida Gators at approximately 9 o'clock Saturday evening. Jacqueline?
Some students might feel a little better about buying Final Four shirts. UNC's Licensing Labor Code Advisory Committee wants the university to join the Workers' Right Consortium in addition to belonging to the Fair Labor Association. These two nonprofit organizations are aimed at protecting the rights of workers who manufacture UNC apparel. UNC students have been protesting the university's membership in the FLA. Students wanted the university to join the WRC instead, but the Labor Code Committee wants to join both. Co-chair of UNC's licensing committee, Rutledge Tufts, says the decision is ultimately up to interim chancellor William McCoy.
Brings a great deal of integrity to this process. He is very concerned about it, and as best I can tell, is looking at all of the material that the committee's passed him, and even that that's coming in from other sources.
On April 3rd, McCoy will announce the final decision in the matter. Another cause for protest on the UNC campus involves the death penalty. Should it stay or should it go?
Carolina Week's Christy Smith tells us how the heated death penalty debate has made its way to Chapel Hill.
Some UNC-Chapel Hill student groups tackle the issue of the death penalty by organizing a week dedicated to the issue. As part of Death Penalty Week, Dead Man Walking author Sister Helen Prejean spoke to students about her experiences counseling death row inmates and her opposition to the death penalty.
And you know, the reason we feel so ambivalent about the death penalty is emotionally the outrage we feel over the terrible crimes people do. We have that on the one hand. On the other hand, we have principles. And in principle, I knew I didn't believe in people being tortured and being killed by the state.
Prejean also touched on a central issue surrounding the death penalty, racial discrimination.
8 out of every 10 people chosen for death are chosen for death because they kill white people. Don't get me wrong. White people shouldn't be killed either. Nobody should be killed.
At a meeting entitled Live from Death Row, former death row inmate Darby Tillis spoke to students about his experience and the flaws in the death penalty. The UNC chapter of the Campaign to End the Death Penalty sponsored the event, which focused on the possibility that innocent people are on death row. Campaign member Greg Pettis.
As long as someone's alive, if they're there under false pretenses, the possibility is there for them to get out and for them to be to overturn the wrong verdict. With the death penalty, that's obviously not true, because once someone's dead, it's over.
Pettis says the week's events were planned to raise awareness with the hope of gaining support for a moratorium. The recent Gallup polls show that 56% of Americans believe that someone convicted of murder should receive the death penalty rather than life in prison, but that's the lowest percentage in 19 years. Currently in North Carolina, 205 persons are on death row, 201 of which are housed here at the all-male Central Prison in Raleigh. This is the only facility in North Carolina where executions take place. If the state of North Carolina calls for a moratorium, no executions will take place until the legislature reviews and possibly amends the death penalty. In Chapel Hill, I'm Christy Smith, Carolina Week.
If you would like to get involved, the campaign holds meetings every Thursday at 7 in the basement of the Campus Y.
Americans couldn't protest the death penalty without the right of free speech. The School of Journalism and Mass Communication at UNC-Chapel Hill will host First Amendment Day Thursday and Friday. The event is sponsored by the Freedom Forum, a foundation dedicated to free speech and of the press. Programs include a discussion about banned books and censorship. One panel Thursday afternoon will address issues relating to the internet and free speech. On Thursday night, people can discuss art and freedom of expression in Haynes Art Center. There will also be a free concert on Polk Place Thursday afternoon. UNC is the first school to host First Amendment Days. Schedules are available in the lobby of Kuralt Hall and on the UNC webpage. The First Amendment, UNC graduates and CBS reporter Charles Kuralt may have spent his life on the road, but his memories have been brought back to Carolina to stay. UNC-Chapel Hill takes a special pride in its famous and respected journalist Charles Kuralt, and that pride will be displayed Friday and Saturday when Kuralt Hall officially opens the replica of Kuralt's Manhattan penthouse office. The contents of Kuralt's 3-room office suite in Midtown Manhattan were donated to UNC by Kuralt's widow, Susanna. A few exciting items that the room includes: 12 of Kuralt's 13 Emmys for his work at CBS, and pictures of Kuralt and other widely known figures. The center will be a place for students to explore Kuralt's work and visitors to witness what kind of professionals UNC produces.
Your friends have one, your parents have one, and chances are you probably have one also.
Coming up, find out how cell phones might be affecting us in ways we never before imagined.
A freshman's first day in Phillips Hall is a humbling experience. You need to get to the 3rd floor, but not every stairwell leads you there. Just as in life, take the wrong way up and you won't get anywhere. None of the corridors make sense. It's like being in a huge maze at 7:57 while you're looking for your 8 o'clock class. No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the student news show.
What is United Cerebral Palsy? Therapy and education. Employment opportunities. Independent living. Family camp. United Cerebral Palsy. Building bridges to independence. You see people, we see promise. Call 800-868-3787.
A quick walk around campus will confirm that cell phones and pagers have become standard gear for today's college students. But with their popularity could be a hidden cost. Carolina Week's Jason Morrell tells us why.
They're inescapable these days, and with 28,000 people signing up for cellular service every day, it's not hard to see that cell phones have taken over. But with convenience comes a price. Aaron Duffy, attorney with the State Public Utilities Commission in Raleigh, says the explosion of new technologies like cell phones and pagers is endangering one of the most basic forms of communication, the telephone number.
Some of the more frightening statistics indicate that the whole North American numbering plan could exhaust as early as 2006 or 2007.
Fearing that could happen, the Federal Communications Commission on March 17th warned that a new system must be put in place to allot telephone numbers. Adding to the problem of diminishing area codes, consumers continue to purchase cell phones and pagers at a phenomenal rate. One of the biggest consumers, the college student.
25 to 35% of our new wireless customers are new to the category. I mean, they've not had service before. And probably a majority of that 25 to 35% are students.
Lane Seeley, area marketing manager of Bell South Mobility, says because of their convenience, low price, and even cool colors, cell phones are simply a must-have for many college students. And they seem to agree.
Yeah, a lot of my friends have cell phones. We need them because we travel a lot, and so I see them talking on campus. I see people everywhere, in the middle of the street, on buses, talking on cell phones.
Basically, my parents got it for me because, like, I do a lot of driving, like, late at night, and they're really worried about, like, emergencies and stuff like that. So it originally started out as an emergency thing, and now it's kind of turned into a social thing, like calling your friends and stuff like that.
Perhaps a new system for allotting telephone numbers is the only answer in slowing their decline, because it appears the number of cell phones will only continue to rise. In Chapel Hill, I'm Jason Morrell, Carolina Week.
The FCC's report on the area code shortage will be released to the public later this week.
Carolina women are in the spotlight this week as the 3rd annual Carolina Women's Week takes center stage. Speakers, panelists, and discussion groups are talking about women's issues. Breaking Silence opened Monday night in the Union Art Gallery to help kick off Women's Week. This interactive exhibit uses CDs and photographs to tell the stories of 14 sexual assault survivors, 11 women and 3 men. One survivor is a 1999 graduate of Carolina. Survivors literally break the silence about sexual assault by describing their experiences. The CDs are available at the Union Information Desk. The exhibit is open until April 16th.
In health news, if you've been sneezing and coughing more than normal, it may be because the allergy season will soon be in full force. Pharmacists at the Student Health Center say with the warm weather beginning this month, students are experiencing allergy symptoms for an extra month. Normally, the allergy season begins in the late March, but with so much pollen in the air, more students need the right medicine. Over-the-counter drugs such as Claritin and Flonase are available, as well as prescription nasal sprays and caplets. You can log on to an emergency pollen website for more information about allergies and normal symptoms at www.niaid.nih.edu or call 1-800-9-POLLEN. Student health officials say a record number of students have come in with allergy symptoms this year because of all the pollen in the air. Getting motivated to crack open school books again is tough for students coming off spring break.
And sliding by might be what you want to do, but what are the consequences of that? The Honor Court prosecutes students who use the internet to cheat the same way they deal with other types of plagiarism. Spring is here and Chapel Hill is in bloom. Such beautiful weather makes it tough for students taking tests and writing papers. However, thanks to the internet, students can find an easy yet illegal way to click and pay. Attorney General of the Honor Court, Taylor Lee, warns that professors know what to look for.
You've done papers in this course before, and the teacher recognizes your writing style and the mistakes that you commonly make, for example, comma splices.
There are dozens of websites that offer term papers, book reports, and essays for a fee. Because students are encouraged to use the internet, Senior Hadley Horn says maybe they don't know it's wrong.
The internet is so widely used on campus for all different things, and we're encouraged to use the internet and the computer as a resource.
Lee says just as there are sites to purchase these papers, there are also sites that specialize in blowing the whistle too.
There's altavista.com and other search engines that will let you enclose quotations, and you can just search, like, there's a particularly unusual sentence.
Even though you might be suffering from spring fever, professors urge students to do their own work. The consequences of getting caught might number the days a student can enjoy UNC's campus. The Honor Court does prosecute students who use the internet to cheat the same way they would prosecute other types of plagiarism.
Normally, cheating and being greedy are bad things, but in this case, greed is a good thing. Contest coordinators for the Fox television game show Greed held open tryouts for a special college edition. More than 100 students from UNC-Chapel Hill and Duke gathered at the Top of the Hill restaurant for a chance to appear in the show and possibly win $2 million. Out of the large crowd, those who passed the 24-question test were granted an interview. These students must wait until April 10th to hear if they'll be on the show or not. The lucky ones will then travel to LA for the April 15th taping.
Well, it's officially spring, and many students are taking advantage of warmer weather.
Coming up, Carolina Week's weathercaster Lee Ringer will let us know if the warm weather is here to stay.
Women's Center, may I help you?
The Women's Center is a nonprofit agency that has served as a meeting place for women in the Triangle since 1979, making it one of the oldest freestanding women's centers in the country. The mission of the Women's Center is to provide a supportive community where all women can inspire each other to grow, both personally and professionally.
I was going through a crisis at home, and I contacted Helpline, and they referred me directly to the Women's Center.
I think the Women's Center is really important for the community because it offers so many different kinds of resources, and if we don't have the resource here, we can find an avenue or a way for women to find the answers that they need.
It is inspiring. It's so exciting to be a part of something that really matters and really changes things.
You can support the Women's Center through membership or by sending a contribution to the Women's Center, 210 Henderson Street, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27514.
We have a lot to look forward to. The Hill's going to Indianapolis this weekend. What about weather?
Weather's looking pretty nice for here in Chapel Hill. We're going to take a look at the forecast for Indianapolis coming up, so stay tuned. But we talked about pollen a little earlier in the show, so that's our weather question for today. What contributes to the pollen that we see in the atmosphere? Is it trees, weeds, grass, or all three? And Fred and Jacqueline will give you a chance to answer that question coming up, and for you two at home. But some rough weather on Tuesday afternoon. We're looking at home video of a tornado that struck parts of Texas, Fort Worth, Texas to be exact. And a lot of times we talk about why you should be in the center of your home in an interior room. Well, here's why. You see that this tornado ripped off these roofs of these houses in this housing development near Fort Worth, and if you're in that room right there, no chance of survival. Tornadoes also ripped through downtown Fort Worth. These pictures from the downtown area shows lots of devastation in that area. Do we have to worry about tornadoes here in North Carolina? Let's take a look at the North Carolina tornado fact sheet. And we see that right now we're in the middle of the most active time for tornadoes, March, April, and May. Last year, 1999, one death, luckily only one death here in North Carolina, but an important thing to remember is that tornadoes can occur at any time, day or night, or actually any time of the year, even though March, April, and May are the most active times. No severe weather to worry about in our forecast, at least in the immediate future. Let's talk about that pollen again as we take a look at our pollen levels, what we can expect for this weekend. Expect medium to high levels with sweet gum, oak, and pine being the main contributors of our pollen count for the next couple of days. But our forecast here for the Chapel Hill area as we head into the weekend, getting ready to watch that big game, looks pretty nice. No rain to wash that pollen away, but we'll see sunny skies heading into the weekend on Friday with a high temperature of 67 degrees. We'll start the day off with a morning low of 40. Heading into Saturday, more nice weather, 70 degrees for your high temperature with a morning low of 42. Maybe a couple extra clouds in the sky for Sunday. We'll see highs of 73. Start the day with a morning low of 45 degrees. And more clouds around for Monday. We'll see clouds on the increase. Temperatures increasing to about 76 degrees. Maybe a chance of rain by afternoon on Monday. We'll start the day with a morning low of 53 degrees. But Chapel Hill, not the only area of interest this weekend. Let's take a look at that forecast for Indianapolis. It looks like this weekend, Indianapolis will see partly cloudy skies. Maybe a chance of rain toward the end of the weekend around Sunday. High temperatures in the low 60s, lows near 40 degrees. So Fred and Jacqueline gave you a little time to think about that question. What contributes to the pollen that we see in our atmosphere?
I would say all of the above, the grass, the trees.
What about you, Jacqueline?
All of the above.
All of the above. Well, y'all got it right today. And trees, weeds, and grass all contribute to the pollen that we're experiencing. Right now, trees are the main contributor, but a little later in the season, we see grasses and weeds contribute.
Okay. All right, great, Lee. Thank you so much.
Thanks for what? We've seen you celebrate on Franklin Street, but what are the chances of more street dancing this weekend?
Coming up next in sports, we'll show you how the Tar Heels plan on taking a bite out of the Gators.
I need a break.
Yeah, well, what I need is a little peace and quiet when I come home. I've been working hard all day.
You have got to do something about that son of yours. I can't stand it anymore.
Well, maybe if you were a better mother, he wouldn't be such a problem.
Better mother? When do you ever spend time with him?
Family Counseling Service of Durham. We can help. Call 286-3757.
Let your knowledge grow at the North Carolina Botanical Garden. Through public service, research, conservation, and education. The garden brings North Carolina's rich natural heritage to you. It's a beautiful way to learn.
This basketball season has been full of surprises.
Yeah, Fred, I think people were shocked that we made the Sweet 16, but Carolina making the Final Four, I don't think anyone could have expected that. We didn't think we'd still be talking Tar Heel basketball in late March, but the boys in baby blue are shocking the world. Brian Strong has the story.
Big hearts plus big plays equal big wins. A Tar Heel basketball team that has been questioned all year for a perceived lack of intensity grinded out a win over Tulsa in the Elite Eight Sunday. And now the Heels are fired up and headed to the Final Four in Indianapolis.
Every kid's dream, everybody who plays college basketball's dream is to play in the Final Four, to be on center stage. And we're there now, and we're going to make the most of our opportunity.
Carolina has relied on several things to earn a place at the RCA Dome. For one, freshman and South Regional MVP Joseph Forte's phenomenal offensive performance. Add to that Julius Pepper's defense and strength on the inside, Ed Cota's senior leadership, Brendan Haywood's surprising interior performance, and the just when you need it big plays of Jason Capel. They've all done the job so far and will need to bring it again if they hope to beat an athletic Florida team on Saturday.
Well, Florida's a very good team, very hard to play against. Billy Donovan's done a great job of assembling very good players, and he's done an excellent job of coaching them.
Florida's pressure defense is going to be a huge key to this game, and something that point guard Ed Cota has got to understand is that when the ball is inbounded, not only is he going to have point guards Teddy Dupay and Brett Nelson attacking him on one side, but also another Florida player coming in for the other side to trap.
Well, we all going to have to be able to handle that basketball. Even Brendan Haywood, Chris Lang, and Max Owens, Julius Peppers, and just try to make Florida pay for pressing. And we need to just try to control this game, but everybody has their hands full.
The Gators come to the semifinals of the Big Dance with a pile of names for the guest list. As many as 10 of Billy Donovan's players will appear in Saturday's game. But not one of the Gators has scored the way that Forte has this tournament. He had 28 points against Tulsa and is averaging 20 points through the first 4 rounds.
I recognize Joseph having that much confidence first day I met him. He came in here wanting to take somebody minutes, and he's worked hard ever since.
And if you bleed Tar Heel blue, you've got to hope that Forte and the rest of the crew bring their A game for 2 more contests, in hopes that the Heels can down East Regional champ Florida and maybe even cut down some more nets on Monday night. In Chapel Hill, I'm Brian Strong, Carolina Week.
The Tar Heels semifinal game will start 30 minutes after the completion of the first semifinal matchup between Michigan State and Wisconsin. So look for Carolina on CBS around 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. While the men march on to Indy, the women's basketball team fell short in its bid to make the Final Four. Georgia stormed past Carolina 83-57. The Bulldogs trailed only once in the game, as their inside advantage was just too much for the Tar Heels. Wanda Brown scored 19 points to lead Carolina, which ends its season at 20-13. The Carolina rowing team is hoping to improve on a weekend showing against Michigan and Ohio State. The Heels fell in the ACC Big Ten double duels Saturday at Lake Wheeler in Raleigh. The Tar Heels gave an especially strong showing against Ohio State's varsity 8 in the second round of races, as UNC managed to stay even with the Buckeyes for the first 1,000 meters before OSU pulled away. Junior Aaron Epples says the team gave one of its better performances of the year.
We had an awesome start, and it was real tight the whole way. We've been working on lengthening our stroke out a little bit, and that helped us a lot. Like, it was a lot more powerful through the water. It was a really good race.
The Tar Heels will be back on Lake Wheeler Water this weekend against Georgetown. The Tar Heel baseball team is back on track after downing Coastal Carolina Tuesday afternoon. Carolina took advantage of some sloppy Chanticleer play to erase an early 3-run deficit. In the 6th inning, Tar Heel pitcher Eric Henderson allowed 3 base runners, then promptly picked each one off to avoid any trouble. Carolina, on the other hand, had a better time on the base paths. Adam Greenberg scores on an unconventional double steal. Greenberg also stayed hot at the plate as he extended his hitting streak to 21 games. The Tar Heels will take on Clemson in a 3-game set this weekend. And one final sports note, guys. Ed Kona and Terrence Newby will be allowed to play Monday night if Carolina reaches the championship game because their court date was suspended indefinitely.
More good news for fans. Thanks for sports, TD. It's not the jungle, and it's not the backyard of Siegfried and Roy.
These exotic cats are just down the road in Pittsburgh, and you'll find out why when Carolina Week returns.
What would you do if your mother asked you? So class, tell me, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, that's right.
Yes, Molly?
I want to be a supermodel when I grow up.
How about you, Josh?
I want to be a cowboy when I grow up.
Anybody want to be a designated driver when they grow up?
A what? Designated.
I don't know what that is. Driver?
You heard of that?
I wonder how Silent Sam feels about guarding the university from groups of third-grade kids. Maybe he's lost interest. We haven't heard his rifle fire recently. Still he stands, a steadfast defender of something. What is it? No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the student news show.
Lions, tigers, and ocelots? No, we're not talking about Oz here, but rather a place closer to home. More than 240 exotic carnivores from around the world reside in what could be called the Pittsburgh Zoo, except this attraction doesn't allow children. The Carnivore Preservation Trust, or CPT, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving endangered meat-eating cats. Everyone at the trust works toward the same long-term goal, to reintroduce these animals back into their natural environments. The CPT hopes to achieve this goal through selective breeding. This practice promotes genetic diversity and gives the animals a chance for future survival. Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week. Thanks for joining us.
Be sure to tune in next week for the latest on the Hills in Indianapolis and the rest of the events surrounding Carolina. Good night, everyone.